Well, welcome everybody to today's webinar on Art Therapy Counseling Program here at Marylhurst University. Just let me forward the slide here, make sure everything's working. So I just wanted to introduce ourselves to today's presenters. I want to welcome Marylhurst Lynch, who's our admissions counselor primarily for the graduate program. She's going to be our main speaker today. And my name is Simona Beatty. I'm going to be your webinar moderator, just making sure the webinar goes well and making sure that you have your questions answered. And of course, Not the Squirrel is joining us as well. If you have been to our campus or visit our campus, other than faculty and staff and our students, probably the other biggest population on our campus are squirrels, and so they're pretty much our unofficial mascot at this point here at Marylhurst University. So we wanted to make sure that they were included in this presentation as well. So we have a pretty big agenda to cover today in our webinar. We want to make sure that you get everything needed about the Art Therapy Counseling Program, and especially we want to get into how to apply to the program because we know that's where most people have questions. So Marysha is going to cover that. What I want to say though is that if you have questions, to go ahead and save them until we're done with the formal presentation. We'll give you plenty of time for your questions, but we're going to have you save them until the end. And when we get to the question and answer session, I will give you some direction on how to ask your questions, so don't worry about that as well. And I want to remind folks, we are recording this webinar and you will receive a copy. So don't worry about scribbling notes or trying to madly follow, every little word that we're saying. You will get a video so you can review it at a later time, so you will have all this information at your fingertips when you need it. Okay, so we are going to get started. So I'm going to turn this over to Marylhurst to talk about the program.
Hi everyone, I'm really happy we can do this webinar for you, and I wanted to start off with just a short program overview. I think most of you have some of the basic information, and then spend more time on the application itself since that's coming up really quickly. The program itself focuses on helping you understand a series of art therapy, the clients and the therapeutic relationship with them by using your creative work to do so. And then by the end, you also gain competence in practical application of those theories within clinical settings. So you are really ready to start working once you finish our program. The program itself has been accredited by the American Art Therapy Association since 1991. It is 90 credits long and can be done in either 2 or 3 years.
And Marylhurst, so 90 credits, that's quarters, correct?
Yes, it's 90 quarter credits. We have 4 quarters. We start with fall, winter, spring, and those will be the heaviest in your credit load, and then summer is a little less packed. Typically students take electives in the summer. The special things about the art therapy program here at Marylhurst is that we have small class sizes. The program admits up to 20 students every year, so your class size will never be larger than that. And we provide a very supportive environment. The faculty and the staff are very dedicated to providing great education, but also a great supportive experience. All of our faculty are either practicing art therapists, counselors, psychologists, whatever their expertise is in. And by the time you finish the program, you will actually be eligible for dual credentialing. You will be eligible both for the National Board Certification as an art therapist and National Board Certification as a counselor. In Oregon, you also qualify for the Qualified Mental Health Professional and the licensing as a professional counselor on the local state level, which is true for most other states, but every state has its own rules, so you'll need to do some research if yours would accept our program.
And I think one of the big benefits of the program is that our faculty are practitioners, and so many of our students, because of that networking capability, do get placements fairly quickly after graduating. Is that correct?
Exactly, yeah, and even in your practicum and field work, you'll get a lot of networking opportunities, and a lot of our students find connections and get placed either where they did their practicum or with someone that they made the connection during their time in school.
All right, so one of the biggest questions is always the cost of attendance, so we're going to go over that right now.
Yeah, so current tuition is $628 per credit. The total approximate cost of the program is $56,520, and that's for either the 2 or 3 year track. The price wouldn't change unless the tuition increases, and tuition increases anywhere from 0 to 3%. For example, this year we're not increasing our tuition at all, so it will remain at $628 per credit. There are little to no additional fees. You know, we don't have a parking fee. Parking is free on campus. You know, we don't have activities fees or anything like that. So the price you see is the price you get. The only additional price cost to you will be then lodging and books and things like that.
Mm-hmm. And we noticed a typo. That's 2016-17 tuition rate. Oh. So, yeah, and what Mariuszka said about the no fees. So Marylhurst, if you haven't heard of us before, we don't have football teams, we don't have athletics, we don't have fraternities and sororities. We are very much focused on students who want to complete their academics through us. And that really cuts down the cost because we don't have things like a health services center, we don't have, you know, a gym or recreational center that would be added to your fees. So that is one of the benefits of Marylhurst.
But we do realize that's still a big price tag to think about. So we wanted to make sure that you know about the financial resources available to you. All our graduate programs are eligible for federal loans. We have some limited Marylhurst scholarships for art therapy students, and you would be automatically considered for them. They're need-based for art therapy, so as you apply for our financial aid, you would be considered for scholarships. I do want to encourage you to look for outside scholarships. We have some resources on our website under financial aid, but one place that I know you can start off with is the Art Therapy Association. They always have some grants and scholarships, and you would be eligible for those because you're looking into art therapy. And we also offer tuition payment plans and other financial managing tools that make that easier for you.
Perfect. And if you need to look up those resources, just at the bottom of the screen, you'll see marylhurst.edu/financial aid, and that is an incredible resource that lets you know how to look for outside scholarships, how to apply for financial aid. And right now, January is a critical time to apply. The priority deadline for financial aid applications is March 1st, and so that is so that you can be considered for the biggest bulk of funding that's available. Mm-hmm. So by March 1st, if you can get your FAFSA application in, that's probably preferable.
And the other date with financial aid that you want to remember is June 1st, when the graduate scholarship application usually come in for the other programs, and that's when they look at the funding for grad scholarships.
All right, get into this. How to apply.
The prerequisites are typically the biggest questions students have. We require 27 quarter credits in art and 18 quarter credits in psychology. All art therapy programs will require some combination of art and psychology credits for you to have before you start the programs. It really is so that you have a good foundation to jump into an intense program, and this helps you be prepared for it. And it also ensures that you have the art skills necessary for the job, the program and the job itself. So it's why we require painting, drawing, and sculpture. Those are the 3 most commonly used mediums in art therapy. So having those helps you be prepared. The drawing should include some figure drawing, and sculpture should include some clay, which can be ceramics. Clay is just a really useful medium in art therapy, so it's good to have experience with it. The psychology credits are quite specific. There's some general psychology credits that you can take at a community college, but the remaining are upper division and have to be in specific areas like abnormal psychology, counseling, developmental psychology, and psychology of personality. I'm always available to look at your transcript to see if what you have is what would match, or maybe if you need to take some extra classes. And you can take them here at Marylhurst. You can also take them from any other regionally accredited school.
Okay. And so what if I'm thinking about applying for this year? Do I have to have all of these before I apply, or could I apply and then slowly work on these?
You can definitely apply and slowly work on them as long as you have them completed by the end of summer term. So you can't start the program with missing prerequisites, but there is still time. There are still 2 full quarter terms where you could bring in some.
Gotcha. All right. All right, application requirements.
All right. So it looks like it's a long application, but it really, all the pieces will make sense to you as you go through them, and as long as you go through them one by one and complete them, it becomes really manageable. Your fee will be waived because you joined us here today, so you don't have to worry about that. Once you start your application, I recommend that you order your transcripts and take the Miller Analogies test and request your recommendations. Those 3 things are typically what takes the longest because they're somewhat dependent on other people or testing facilities. Like Miller Analogies test can take up to 6 weeks to receive the official scores. Recommendation letters are always tricky because somebody else is sending them in, and the transcripts as well, depending where they're coming from. You can order them now through an online sharing system that a lot of universities have, and that typically makes it cheaper and faster for you. So I would take advantage of that if you can. The last requirements that I want to mention, the other ones are fairly self-explanatory. You get instructions for them. We send you instructions. They're also part of your application portal, but the human services experience is something that you want to start thinking about as soon as possible. It's experience that you gain either by working somewhere as a paid employee or volunteering somewhere. Like agencies that serve clients with mental illnesses or day or residential treatment programs. What's key is that you have some supervision by someone who's either an art therapist or a counselor or a social worker. Art doesn't have to be part of your experience, but working with a vulnerable population does, because it's really a good way to actually for yourself find out if it is what you want to do.
Gotcha. And how much experience are you looking for?
They're looking for about 100 hours.
Okay. Gotcha. And you said that once they get into the online application, all of the directions for this will be in there?
Yes, and we'll also send you a checklist so that you can keep track as well.
Gotcha. All right, here's the process.
Yeah, so if you're thinking of applying for fall 2016, it's not too late. There's still time. I know January 31st is like in 3 days, but that's when they'll start reviewing completed applications. I encourage everybody to complete their application as close to that date as possible because there are only 20 spots, but they review every application. So if you are thinking of fall 2016, start your online process. It will take you through each of the requirements. You can slowly complete the application. You can sign in and sign back out and sign back in, upload a few things, sign out, come back. You can do it at your own pace, but starting it is good because then you'll have all the instructions and you'll have my support. So as you gather requirements, I'll work with you, and then your application will be reviewed once everything's in, and it can take at least 2 weeks, if not longer, depending on how many applications they're reviewing. And then if they find that you're a good fit, they'll call you in for an interview, which is typically in spring. If you can't come to campus, they'll do it over the phone.
Gotcha. The next program starts in September.
Yes, September 26th is the first day of classes.
A little about the online application itself.
Yeah, so like I mentioned, it's a portal, so you create a login, and then you can log in with that. So it's usually your email and a password, and you can log into your portal anytime and complete your application. First, some personal information, just basic profile things, and then you will go through your academic history, so where you went to school, your employment, where you did some of your human services, or maybe other experience you have. You'll be able to upload the resume. In the essays section, you'll upload your other written requirements like the autobiography and essay. And then letter of recommendation are ordered through the portal, so let your recommenders know. They'll get an email from Marylhurst with a link to an online form where they can fill it out and then press submit. They don't have to find a stamp. They just have to fill it out and click submit, and we'll get their recommendation.
And I think that last bullet is key, that they can submit their application but continue to upload their documents.
Yes. Yeah, you don't have to wait for all your transcripts and recommendation letters to come in. If you're ready to submit it, you can, and then you keep submitting your requirements.
Okay. All right. So that is essentially kind of the nuts and bolts of applying to the art therapy counseling program. So we wanted to make sure that we had plenty of time for your questions. So I wanted to, before you start your questions, I wanted to give some ground rules about how that's going to work. So in the little panel on it should be on the right-hand side of your computer. You should have seen a little GoToWebinar panel. You'll see a little question panel box. You will go ahead and type your question in there, and we will then go over those. Now, we will answer questions in this public forum that are general to the group. If you have very personal questions to you, go ahead and ask them, but we won't say them out loud in the forum. We will answer those by email following this webinar. So if you have a very specific, that's to your scenario, that you would like Marushka to address, please go ahead and type that in, and we will absolutely follow up by email at a later, after this webinar. So I'm going to check and see if we have any questions. So just waiting. If you have a question, go ahead and type it in now. Let's see. I'm trying to think of other commonly asked questions that you get about the program. Let's see. So one question is, how busy would you say someone in the program would expect to be? Like, you know, is this my life is over, all I'm going to do is this program, or, you know, what's kind of the the intensity of the program, I guess?
It's a fairly intense program. It's part of why we offer a 2- or a 3-year track. In a 2-year track, your first year will be anywhere between 17 and 19 credits per quarter term for fall, winter, and spring. And that's a big load. It's manageable because of our supportive faculty and staff and just the cohesive group that you create with other students. But it is a lot of work. There's no going around that, but it will be a lot of work, but it's why the 90 credits can be done in 2 years. The second year will be a little less. It will be 19 to 13 credits. Fall, winter, and spring, and again, summer is usually for electives. You can do all 5 of them in 1 year, or you can just intersperse them in your other terms and take the summer off, which is lovely. But your second year will be practicum, so it will be a lot of work because you'll be actually working at a facility and working on your case study, which is how you complete the program. Gotcha. And then the 3-year track is a little less intense. It's the first year is around 10 credits a term, and the third year is between the first and second are about 10 credits, and then the third year is between 6 and 10 credits.
Gotcha. So it's a little bit more time management wise. So we have an excellent question, knowing that there's only 20 spots for fall. Yeah. What's your general acceptance rate? Our general acceptance rate is typically about 2 to 3 times as many students apply for the spots. And so what the department looks for is fit. They usually fill the 20 spots
but they will admit a few more than that, and then a lot of students are looking at other schools and then decide which one's the best fit for them. We're both making that decision at the same time. I don't know the actual percentage, but I would say that they admit about half of the students that apply.
Gotcha. And then are there payment plans for the program?
We have general payment plans for any of our programs. We work with an external company that helps you set that up if that works for you.
Yeah, if you want to go online, look up under financial aid, so marylhurst.edu/financial aid. It discusses payment plans there. So all of our students, regardless of whichever program you're in, have access to those financial and payment plans. Let's see, so we have a kind of a specific question, but this might be applicable to others. Someone who has submitted their application already, but now have decided that maybe this year isn't the right fit. So maybe, can they hold that application until next year? How does that work?
Yeah, you just need to let admissions or me, Marushka, know that you'd like to move your application for next fall, and we will move it, and all of the requirements and everything you've already submitted will move with it, so you don't lose anything. You can also keep working on it and see if you can make it work for you for this year, and we can defer it at any point as long as it's before the fall starts.
Gotcha. Let's see, we have another excellent question here. So we're talking about graduates of the program. Where do they typically get placements? Like what type of industries do they tend to go into?
Actually quite a diverse group of places that we work with. All of the practicum placements are very intentional. We have mentors that we've worked with that are trained by our faculty to be of great support to you. But we have placements in hospitals and day treatment centers and different alternative schools. So there's a wide range of placements that we have. You can actually see, if you go on our website under academics, graduate programs, and art therapy, there's a section on their website that talks about our partnerships, and that's where you can see where a lot of our placements are.
Okay. And one of the the perks of coming to Marylhurst is we are one of the premier universities for art therapy counseling. And so the reputation of this university really goes with our graduates. So when they go out and they tell them they're a Marylhurst graduate, it really carries a lot of weight in the industry. Let's see, so this is a question. So a person has a lot of art in their background, but what if they don't have any psychology courses? I know it was, what is it, 18 credits of psychology?
Yeah.
So that would be about, they're trying to figure out how much time would that take to complete. So I guess it depends on how many classes they're willing to take.
Yeah, it does. It depends. It's not unusual. I don't let that scare you off considering art therapy as a profession, because you can definitely bring those credits in and take them now. It really does depend. I would say if if you're working and have family, I would say give yourself a year and apply for next year if you're missing all of the psychology credits. But you could, if you're missing, let's say, if you're missing 12 of them, you could do two. You could do. You have 2 terms. If you're willing to do 2 classes, spring term, and 2 classes summer term, you could still make that happen even for fall 16. So it's still possible, even if you're missing all of the psychology credits, to do them now. But if you want to slowly do them so that you do like 1 a term, I would take a full year and do it that way. But it's not unusual. A lot of our students are either missing some art, or they're missing all of the art, or they're missing all of the psychology because they didn't necessarily take an undergraduate program that would combine or complete those. So I wouldn't be too concerned about.
So we have a question here about what if they don't get accepted this time around? How many times can someone apply, and could they use the same application?
There's no limit to how many times you can apply to a program. If you can use the same application It depends. If your application was not accepted, if they did not offer you admission, I would advise against submitting the same application, because obviously something was not quite the right fit in your experience or your grades or your portfolio. So I would definitely, if you're resubmitting when you haven't been offered admission, I would work on an application. So I would recommend that you spruce up your essay, you work on your portfolio, maybe take some extra classes. If you just weren't able to finish the application or decided to move it to a different time, then you can definitely use the same pieces.
Okay. So the next question is, I think I'm trying to digest it a little bit, so let me see if I can do it justice here. So for human services experience, what if those hours come from multiple places? So then the question is, would they need to have letters of recommendation from all of those? Or do letters of recommendation, it's really up to them to provide their selection, or how?
Yeah.
So those are really two different things.
You can have human services experience at many different places. You don't have to do 100 hours at only one place only. As far as recommendation letters, you don't have to have them from all of your supervisors. I would recommend that you choose ones that you've had the best relationship with, but also the ones that are most pertinent to the profession itself. So somebody that's a counselor, social worker, if they're an art therapist, that's a bonus. It's not a requirement, but you know, that might be someone you want to ask. There are 3 recommendations required. You can always ask for more than 3 if that would be helpful. I wouldn't necessarily go crazy and ask for 10, but quite a few students ask for 4 or 5 if that was helpful.
Mm-hmm. Let's see, so a question again on the prerequisites. So say they are planning to take some of these in the summer, would that mean if they got an admissions offer, would it mean that it's pending, or would they be accepted? Mm-hmm. Like, what would their status be?
What we call the admission with missing prerequisites is a conditional admission. What it means is that you can't register for coursework. You can work on your financial aid, you can get everything ready, and as soon as we get those prerequisites confirmed, so when we get an official transcript, you'll automatically be admitted. So your spot is safe. So you can definitely work on it still in the summertime.
Okay, so a little bit of a test for you, Marylhurst. So there's a question about what kind of salary can a graduate of our program expect?
Mm-hmm. So you can actually look up the average salary for an art therapist. Typically, when you're starting in the field, your salary is around $30,000 a year, and it can go up to $70,000 a year. This is all dependent on where you work, with what kind of population you work. The medium is somewhere between $35,000 and $45,000.
Okay. And it also depends on your credentialing as well.
Depends on your credentialing, where you work. You know, do you work in a nonprofit organization, or do you work for a big mental health hospital, or do you have a private practice? So it just depends.
Gotcha. And let's see, and so this is another question. So if you were not offered admissions, could they contact you to kind of go over maybe what happened, or how they could maybe have a better chance next time? Is that something that we provide as a service?
Often the art therapy faculty is willing to have a conversation. They often actually share that information in the letter that they send you. And I know from experience that it's typically either your human services experience just isn't quite there yet, or your grades, or your artwork. So you can definitely work on all of those. We've had students that were not offered admission and then come back next year. They spruced everything up and they were admitted.
Gotcha. All right, so I'm not seeing any further questions. So while we're waiting for any additional questions to come in, we're going to go ahead and put up the last slide, which is really if you just want to do additional research and just learn a little bit more, you know, before you apply, or if you still have some questions about the application, We just wanted to give you some places to check out. And of course, Marushka is available to help with, the application process or any questions that you may have about the art therapy counseling program. Let's see. So one more question came in, and approximately how many applicants do we usually end up per year? I think it's quite a large number.
Yeah, it's around 60 applicants. And not everybody completes their application. So I would say that we typically get anywhere between 60 and 80 people that start applying, and then about 40 complete their application, and then we admit 20.
Okay. So again, Marushka's contact information is here, and you can reach out to her at any time. She can help you. And again, that January 31st is just a soft deadline. So what that really means is that our program will start to review any applications that have come in so far. So that means even if you get your application after that deadline, does not mean that you are out of the running. You absolutely can still be considered for the program, and many people do.
Yes. Please don't let that deter you.
Yeah, and I think majority of our folks that we admitted last year came in after that time anyway. So.
Yeah, I would say that about half of the people finish their application in the beginning of February, and then we get a few applications that complete during spring.
Okay. And just to finish off the webinar, you will receive an email following this webinar in about 24 hours that will have the video to this. And again, we'll put in Marushka's contact information, so if you have any further questions beyond that, she will be able to answer those. We didn't see any questions that were kind of personal to you, so again, if more come up, Marushka will follow up with you. Again, feel free to reach out. And that pretty much concludes our webinar. So we just want to say a big thank you, and we wish you luck in the application process, and we hope to see many of you here in the fall.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking the time.
Great.